We're going to start this meeting at 6:01 PM on Tuesday, May 2nd. The entire board's here. First item up for business is to accept the April 18th minutes.
I'll make a motion, we accept the April 18th, 2023 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carried. 2 votes. Matt stayed out of it. I was not at that meeting. So that is good to go. Next line item, Gary, I see you're here, and Andrew, I see you're here. So are you related on the topics, or
Yes.
do you have something else? Okay.
No, I'm related on the topics, but I'm gonna
All right, so
defer to Gary on this one.
somewhere in here it's gonna say Flint Road landfill. So let's go with that.
Okay.
I'm gonna skip new business for right now. Let's go to old business, Flint Road landfill.
All right. Flint Road landfill, there's a lot going on. So what I did is I gave you guys a memo. The memo is primarily just to keep us on track, so we don't get sidetracked. I'll go through them quickly, and then we'll go through them and have questions as we go. 90 Flint Road, Q2 2023. The quarterly sampling is done. The data is not in for the 90 Flint Road, the cap landfill. So that's the first bullet point. The second bullet point, 90 Flint Road, the cap landfill. The third-party inspection was done April 25th. That is a unannounced inspection by your third-party inspector. Her name is Tessa David. She is not, this will be her third inspection every 2 years of that landfill. I always offer to go there with her because it's hard to find some of the wells and it's not really great to be walking around a landfill by yourself. So she actually usually calls or texts me the day before so I don't have any time to go in there and fix anything. And she texted me or called me on the 24th and I met her the 25th at 11 o'clock. We did a 1-hour walkthrough. She did her standard inspection. No significant concerns noted at the walkthrough, other than we do need to get the repairs of the grass done where the liner is starting to be exposed on top of a couple of the berms.
Scalping.
Scalping, which I told her was scheduled, it just didn't get done last year to weather conditions and everything else.
Can I just, from my understanding, is she, I know it's third party, is that provided by the state? Does the town, did we pick a third party and we're hiring this person?
So what happens is when we first, CMG started working with you guys on this, we realized that you hadn't done a third-party inspection. At that point, I'm going to ask your help. I'm going to forget the gentleman's name.
Jim Malley?
Jim Malley was a licensed third-party inspector.
Yeah.
I got Jim. We did the first one through Jim.
Right.
Jim became ill. We needed somebody else. So I reached out to the state list of third-party inspectors. I reached out to 3 of them on your behalf. And Tessa was the best price, I thought, and most reasonable person. She's a one-person operation. Jim's worked with her. She gives us a report that gets filed with the state, and there are some requirements, and I'd say she's been very fair.
Yeah, it's all come back to me now. I recall, I just,
So that's the status
it's
of
been a
that.
couple of years. Thank you.
There are other third-party inspectors. We could certainly switch if you wanted to, but as your consultant, I'm very pleased with the quality of the work she does. I think the price is very fair, and she's very reasonable time-wise, and she's well-respected with DEP.
Oh, I have no issues. I just trying to recall the process.
Number 3. Number 3, 54 Flint Road, the uncapped landfill. Q2 2023 monitoring is complete. Both of these monitoring events for the old landfill and the new landfill do include PFAS testing. The data is in for the Flint Road, the 54 Flint Road. I sampled the wells. We sampled the landfills about a week apart. So the 90 Flint Road data will be in about probably next Monday. 54 is in. PFAS was detected, or has been detected, in 5 of the 8 monitoring wells at concentrations above 20 parts per trillion. Wells 3, 4S, 4D, 5S, and 5D. And if you, without even looking at the landfill, we have 3 monitoring wells right on the road, and then we have 5 monitoring wells in the landfill. The 3 monitoring wells on the road do not have PFAS in them. those are considered upgrading or right on the edge of the landfill. The ones in the landfill downgradient all have PFAS. Without quoting me on it and without pulling out Matt's tool there to look at the fine print, the PFAS concentrations range from about 150 to around 700. The drinking water, this is parts per trillion, drinking water standard is 20. So anything above 20, within 500 feet of a drinking water well, does require notification to DEP. I contacted, I got the data yesterday around 3 o'clock. We validated the data. I reached out to Jim. I spoke with Jim as a representative of the Board of Health at 4 o'clock yesterday to inform him of that pending 72-hour notice. So that notice, I spoke with Matt this morning about that. That notice is due by this Thursday at 4 o'clock. That notice simply requires us to call DEP, tell them of this condition. It won't be a huge surprise to them because they know we were sampling. And more importantly, inform them that there appears to be 8 homes within 500 feet of those wells. So if you look at the maps I provided you guys, and again, without blowing this up so it's so big you can't see it, there's 3 circles on the map. Those 3 circles are 500-foot radius around the 5 impacted wells. Number 3 is a well that sits up on the north end. The 4s are right next to each other, so there's only 1 circle. That's the circle in the middle. And the 5s, again, are right next to each other, so there's 1 circle. So not every property, every drinking water well within these circles has to be tested, is within 500 feet. If we get detections of those, we take this map and we put other circles on those to 500 feet. But right now, where we sit, based on the information we have, from information we've already done with you guys for the 1,4-dioxin detection and other things, it appears that number 43, number 45, 47, 53, 59, and 60 Flint Road, as well as 14 and 16 Old Town Road, are the wells that are within 500 feet.
How'd you pick up 59?
59 is right on the fringe. I'm not sure that well is location, that well on this map is accurate. 59 was, I think we actually, that's the first question I asked when my guy did the map. 59 is right in the fringe. We measured 59 when we originally started, because 59 is the well that we detected VOCs in initially, and it was in the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why 59 is it.
I'm not disagreeing.
No, first question I asked myself, because it's right on the fringe.
Yep.
So DEP, and then the last sentence I have in bullet point number 3 is DEP will likely issue a new tracking number. So right now, the Flint Road landfill has a tracking number for 1,4-dioxin. Our experience has been DEP will likely issue a new tracking number for this, which will trigger new DEP notifications. 6 months, 2 months we're going to have to do a status report, and in 6 months we have to do more status reports, and every 6 months we're be reporting to them. So there's basically the same process as we have for the 1,4-dioxin. We'll follow for this. At some point, probably a year or 2 down the road, those 2 will probably link together, and DEP will let us link them together to kind of reduce some of the reporting. But we're still going to do all the testing and everything. Probably won't let us link. They may link. I'll ask if we can link them now. They might, because PFAS is a new concern. Historically, they've been issuing new numbers, but it doesn't matter either way. That's where we sit. So I have at the back of this some action items, but we'll get to those. I think it's easier. We'll just go down to number 4 here, because there are some action items associated with number 3, but we'll go to 4 and we'll go through the action items. So number 4 is the capping component of the Flint Road landfill. As you guys all know, DEP requested an addendum to the comprehensive site assessment, which I submitted to DEP, which says the town will do the PFAS testing. That was submitted to DEP almost a month ago, April 7th. I reached out to DEP today to see where they sit with issuing an approval of the comprehensive site assessment, because it was my understanding, and I believe everybody in the meeting, DEP said they had the approval ready to go. Mm-hmm. They just needed this addendum. So the addendum's been submitted. I've asked to get that approval, because once we get that comprehensive site assessment approval, then it allows us to move to the next step of progressing forward with the capping project. Right now, we can't move forward with the capping project until we get that comprehensive site assessment. And they said they have it and they're ready to issue it, so let's get it, keep moving forward, and keep this thing moving. We're working on the required permits and engineering to move forward with the capping, but we need some things. So the 3 bullet items that are there under number 4 is, we have to talk to the Conservation Commission and get approval to do some test pits around the landfill. The reason for doing those test pits is we have to completely delineate where the waste ends relative to the property boundaries so that the design of the cap can be made. The waste ends 10 feet off, so they can design the cap to end 10 feet or 12 feet or 6 feet or 7 feet. So that's a standard component in all landfills. You go around and you do that. And you do that after the comprehensive site assessment, after everything's been approved. So there's a process, but we're going to need to go to conservation with a request for determination of applicability, because we're certainly going to be within the 100-foot radius, 100 foot of the resource areas. And we're actually going to be, within 30 feet of some of the wetlands areas at the backside of the landfill. Pretty simple process. We submit a request for determination of applicability. We talk to the board, and hopefully they give us a negative determination, let us do the test pits. We will go back to the board later when we do the actual capping, or prior to that, and we'll have to submit a notice of intent, much more detailed process, much more lengthy process of getting the approval. But that's in case, because we will be doing physical work, construction activities within the resource areas, or certainly within 100 feet of the wetlands. Obviously, everything on the backside of that wetland, of that landfill, is within a resource area. So I don't see big problems with that, but we have to talk to them. The second thing we recommend doing is filing what's called the abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Determination, an ANRAD. What that does is that takes the wetland flagging that we hired Ecotech. Scott Morrison is a very respected wetlands expert in the area, and that takes those flags and it locks them in to determine that those are the wetland boundaries, so that when we're filing in the future, conservation doesn't come back, or anybody comes back and says, well, no, those aren't accurate, or we want to move those flags, or we want to talk about this flag. It locks in those flags, so it locks in that line, and then all of our work. Because what happens if we don't have that locked in, we do a whole bunch of design work, and then Concom says, no, we want to move that flag 10 feet. That changes all the design work, costs money. So the recommendation would be to file that request for determination of applicability for the test pits. We file for the ANRAD kind of at the same time. They're pretty basic documents. Hopefully get those both approved and move forward. The other action item we need is we need to secure access agreements. And I have the word agreements, but I believe it's only one person. The landfill, there are 3 abutting parcels to the west and north combined. They're not shown on here all that well. Yeah, they're not, because they're on this side over here. I have another map that shows all those. But obviously, if there is any waste on those properties, the town's going to be responsible. We're going to have to pull that back. But we may have to do test pits onto their property to evaluate where the waste is. We might have some stormwater mitigation issues. We may have to cut a tree or 2 on their property to do the work on our property. So we're going to need to secure access agreements.
Is that the map?
No, I brought a copy of it, but I didn't print the full 2x3 map. So it's this map here that you guys have seen, and talk about needing a tool. So on the back side of the landfill, it's the Jackson family, I believe it is. So there's a couple parcels across the back. There's one parcel here, there's one parcel here, and one parcel here. So we're going to need access from those parties. I walked this the other day with Bruce Haskell and Dave, my engineer, and it doesn't appear that there's any overspill, certainly of any significance. There might be, like, there's a tire here and there that rolled down the hill. Those we'll obviously take care of, but we can't really do anything without having an access agreement in place. So I have a draft access agreement. I started working on it. It's not ready to get to you guys tonight. It's one from Bruce Haskell, but I'll get that to you probably tomorrow. And I think it's one of the reasons Andrew wanted to be here, because I talked to him about that need for that access agreement. That's probably, I presume, town's legal will take a look at that. I'll get you guys a draft of what it needs to say for us. And then, it's fortunate that I think we only have one person.
And that's the Jacksons.
Yeah, these are known as, it's, I think one of them, and don't quote me, I think one of them is Nancy Jackson, and one is Nancy and somebody else, and one is Nancy and somebody else. So it's the Jacksons.
Mhm.
I believe this board has a pretty good relationship with them personally.
Perfect.
Not to say they're gonna let us go on their property, but I know they've certainly listened to the request.
Right. So the question, well, let's turn this over. So that bullet point just talks about an access agreement, but, and then the last thing I need under there is I need DEP approval of a comprehensive site assessment, which I've asked for. So action items that I'd like to see the board make a decision on tonight are two. One, approval for CMG to call Mass DEP and report the 72-hour condition, and approval to sample the 8 homes listed for PFAS as required. I can't call DEP without you got the board's approval to do so, or the town's approval to do so. So I want to talk to you guys about that. Normally, if we didn't have a meeting, I would have reached out through Jem, and then we probably would have gotten a call with you guys or had you on the phone to let you know. But there is an obligation on that the town of Charlton has now to make that notification. It's a simple notification, but we do need your approval to do such.
So, do one of you wanna make a motion to, allow approval for CMG to call Mass DEP for the 72-hour condition of PFAS?
Make a motion for CMG to call Mass DEP and report the 72-hour condition and the approval. Well, just to report that and to inform them that we will be determining testing on the 8 homes within the radius.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So Gary, still are anyways, but yeah, go ahead and,
Well, we're gonna make that notification, and then we'll send you guys an email. You will get that nastygram letter from DEP.
Mhm.
You legally responsible and everything, but what I have to do is present what's called a verbal IRA, immediate response action approval, and that will be to test those homes. Nothing else at this point. And then, as we all know, if and when the data comes in from the homes, we may be having this discussion again.
throw a timeline at us.
Right now, it's 3 weeks to get the data from the lab. Realistically, we've sampled all these homes before, so we're simply gonna, through you, ask for a new set of contact information from some of them. The low 40 numbers, I haven't sampled those in years. I just wanna validate the same homeowners are there. And then we'll just make a simple phone call and sample them. So I will be sampling next week. So sampling the week of the 8th, so right around Memorial Day, we'll be getting data in.
All right. Gary, and you might not know the answer, but do you think these 8 homes are 8 homes that we reached out to a couple weeks ago with a letter?
These homes are all, I believe they'll, well, actually, I don't know the answer to that, because I was originally thinking that was on Burlingame, but no, that would have been, they probably would have been in here. Yeah, they should have been.
We did reach out to them, let them know we were gonna be testing.
We did 500 feet from the landfill boundary, so yeah, they should all have been notified
I think
of
they
that.
are, man.
And
We'll double check.
we did suggest bottled water at that time,
Correct. Yeah,
so, okay.
I think the answer is yes, they probably all should have seen that letter.
Yep.
The second issue is approval for CMG to file that request for determination for the test pits and the ANRAD, it's spelled wrong, for the locking in the wetlands boundaries.
Who's Andrew?
I know. Had that reviewed twice and we still got an error on that.
Okay.
So, and you could talk about those separately, or you don't have to make a, we could talk about how best to handle those. I think a request for determination of applicability is absolutely the right thing to do for test pits, because there's really no or limited disturbance. It's a small excavator. Just digging a hole and throw it back in.
doesn't make sense to do the work, then change the boundaries and have to redo the work. But, do you want separate motions, or do you want?
So you're saying do the lock it in with the ANRAD first?
I would just do, I mean, we can either do separate motions or just do,
Let me just clarify one
Yeah.
thing for everybody. So, filing a request for determination of applicability is a file. We submit that to Concom. We could submit at the exact same meeting a separate document, the ANRAD. And the ANRAD, they might say, we want to do a site inspection for that. For the RDA, they might say, you know what, just go ahead. We don't, well, they might approve it right then. Or they might say, okay, we want to do a site inspection for both. We go do a site inspection, and they might say, we want to do 3 hand augers around some of Scott's points, or they want to talk to Scott, because Scott, who did the wetland work, is very well respected. So they're 2 separate and distinct things moving forward. They may get approved at the same meetings, or they might go like this and one get approved. It doesn't matter, but the point of getting that ANRAD out of the way is for when we get to the bigger phase of doing that full capping design, we really need to know where that line is, and we all need to be on the same page with that line. So there's a benefit to doing it.
So did that answer your question?
Does that help?
So, is there a motion, do we want to talk about them separately or merge them?
I'm okay merging them.
I'm good merging. All
I'm good with merging.
right, so you wanna make a motion?
Yeah. I'll make a motion for CMD to file the RDA and ANRAD with Conservation, Charlton Conservation Commission.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Gary, you're on a roll. You asked us for 2
Green light,
things.
yeah.
We gave you 2 things. What else you
Just
need?
don't be asking for a lot of money.
What else you need?
The rest of the
He's already
paper,
done
the
that.
rest of the paper's blank. No, actually,
Approved.
let's speak briefly about money. There is funding approved for the PFAS testing we did, and there is limited funding for this required drinking water testing. We'll be talking we're gonna see where that goes. There's plenty of funds available to do this first batch. Depending what that data shows, we, as a group, may be providing bottled water. We could possibly be putting treatment systems in. Don't really want to talk about that yet until we get some data in hand. But we've had the discussion, everyone's aware of it. Let's wait till we get some data.
What would be your recommendation for testing the negative wells? What cadence, given
So, the drinking water wells? Or
the land, the ones that didn't test positive, what would be your recommendation for retesting?
So every 6 months is what we agreed with
Yeah.
DEP. Now that we have detections, it is likely that PFAS testing will be done in all wells semi-annually going forward.
So the ones that are positive, I mean, there's not the likelihood that they're gonna come down. I mean, what are we gonna gain from retesting a positive well at 6 months or a year?
Yeah,
Right.
good point. DEP will probably mandate it. We may be able to argue. Probably pre-cap, we're not gonna have a lot of ground to stand on. But the other landfill already has a cap on it.
Mm.
So let's say we tested the other landfill for two semi-annual events and the results were consistent. What we have done at other landfills is we've said, all right, these certain contaminants that are either really expensive or don't change, we just test them annually instead of semi-annually, so you can.
Cause that would be about 10 grand, right? I mean, to tell us that we already know that there's PFAS.
Right, right. No, it's not gonna be, yeah, it's not quite that much, but, actually the testing went smoother than we thought, so your cost, it'll be under what we estimated. But that's a very good point, Pete. I think we've got a really hard sell to DEP to say we're gonna do less testing at the uncapped landfill. I think we've got a somewhat of a sound argument on the capped one after we get a couple events under our belt. Keep in mind, you have a 30-year monitoring period. You're on year 3 or 4 for the capped landfill. You have 26 more to go.
what do they call it, a forever chemical or something?
Yeah, PFAS is not gonna go away. It's once it's in the water, it's there. The issue is, if you think about it, in the capped landfill, there's theoretically no way to make it move. In the uncapped landfill, all the rain we had today has the potential to come in contact with that source of PFAS and move it around. So once you get a cap on it, it shouldn't move. Theoretically, it should, dilute a little bit, but it should not move. That's that's why you cap landfills.
Right.
It's the whole point of capping it, so it doesn't move. So,
So our big weight right now is comprehensive site assignment.
we need that approval from DEP. Yeah, we're kind of at this, we really can't go to the next level to do the next thing. Like even the test pits, there's a request, we have to submit to DEP to do those test pits. Can't submit it until we have the site assessment approved.
So with the RDA and the ANRAD, you have permission to do it, but should we wait for that paperwork from DEP?
I'd say get those out of the way, because that paperwork's, it's imminent. I mean,
It's
they
coming.
said, they told all of us in the meeting, it's on his desk, ready to go.
Right.
And you, the board, agreed to do what they asked you to do. And I sent a letter that says that exactly.
On April 7th, no less.
The
That's-
non-mandatory PFAS testing now.
You agreed to do the non-mandatory PFAS. I mean, granted, that's only been 4 weeks. That's not a lot of time for DEP to get back, because everything gets reviewed and signed by other parties. So it very well could have started down the road on April 8th. It just hasn't gotten through the system yet. If I don't hear from Jim and if he didn't respond to my email in the next couple of days, I'll give him a call. He's very responsible, receptive.
Jim McQuaid?
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see that, based on everything I've seen, that's imminent. It'll be forthcoming.
So.
That's
Miss
it.
Miss Mary Jude was correct in saying that Charlton does not have a lucky horseshoe around its town, and that, in fact, we do test positive for PFAS. FOS.
On that note, it's just an interesting point. And I have no data to speak out of turn on this, but I'll just give it to you. MW5D was our problematic well for 1,4-dioxin. You guys don't have this, I have it in front of me, it's hard to read. But 5D is the 1D, the deeper well, that's had 1,4-dioxin consistently since 2016. Standard's 0.3, and it's been, 0.5, 9, 1.5, or 0.9, 1.5. It's been between 0.5 and 1.5, dead on consistent for 4 years. That well has PFAS in it at 152. The well right next to it, 5S, the shallow well, which one would expect would have more impact from the landfill, has never had a 1,4-dioxin issue. But yet it's PFAS at twice as high, 320, as the other one. And then even more interesting, because Mary Jude used the argument that because you've got 1,4-dioxin, you might have PFAS. Really no 1,4-dioxin issue in 4D, but PFAS is at 450. No 1,4-dioxin issue in 4S, PFAS is at 800, 750. So, yeah, Mary Jude is correct, that we don't have that.
Lucky horseshoe.
But the interesting thing is the worst well is in the center of the landfill, and capping will reduce that. We'll lock that up. So that's very encouraging. And the fact that your wells on the property, on the road, don't have it may help with the drinking water bills.
What else, Gary? What else do you have for us?
That's it.
Andrew, do you have any questions, concerns?
Well, I think it's gonna be, getting this through to completion as quickly as possible to mitigate our PFAS issue. I think that's just the evolving, thing that we have to try to get ahead of, before it becomes more and more of an issue, and say really the standards become even more stringent.
They're going to change.
Yeah.
Mass DEP said that they're going to follow the federal standard, and the federal proposed standard is 4, not 24.
So I recall when the 1.4 hit up on the landfill area, about 50 phone calls in 2 days' time from the residents on questions, concerns, and all of that. My phone number was the one,
This for the Flint Road one or for H Foot Road?
H Foot Road.
Yes.
So, we may or may not get that, but should this board come up with a plan and say, call the chair, call the Board of Health, or do we send a letter, or do we wait for the test, or give him Andrew's contact, like, how do we do it? Probably
Very good
keep
question.
him out of it as far as contact, because it's clearly in this realm. So what's your thought, Jim? Give him Jim's.
I think that they should call, this board works on behalf of the, this office works on behalf of the Board of Health, and anything that information we would give out would be on behalf of the board, so you'd have to let us know, Gary should draft something, or we should draft something up, so we get consistent information out to them. They have received the letters already, hopefully they've taken the advice and already started drinking bottled water. But someone may say, well, I can't afford, and I'd like to start doing bottled water, you're gonna stop providing it. What are we gonna say to them at this point?
Yeah, I know. Can we get something up on our website too, so if and when this time comes, we could say, listen, all the information's on the Town of Charlton Board of Health website, and as far as the PFAS, I know we have the data on there, but as far as, like, what they can expect, or is that?
So we provided that letter with DEP's fact sheet
Mhm.
On the web,
on the web. We provided, you guys provided the letter and it's on the web, I believe.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's
Put it
there. My recommendation to keep things clear is, as Jim said, the question should go through this office. Really, there's not a lot of new information. Right now, we know it's in the landfill. That's really all that's new. That's gonna get submitted to DEP, be public information, anybody can review that. In 60 days, we'll submit a report about that, anybody can review that. I think a great question you bring up, Matt, is around end of May, beginning of June, when this data starts coming in, I hope I can come here and tell you guys that we have 8 homes with no detections. It'd be fantastic. That won't be the end of the testing. DEP will make us test again, but that's okay. If I can't tell you that, we do have detections, that's where I think the questions are gonna start to arise. And again, there's really not a lot of, the information is, it's public information. Once we collect it and give it to you guys at 12 Smith Street, we found it, and here's the numeric value. DEP, so I don't, Ben, my business partner is the LSP, nor does this board make the decision on what we do with that data. In other words, what action is triggered. So as we collect data, and the data comes in with detections, or detections above 20, we have to notify DEP of that information as soon as we get it. DEP will then tell us what action item we're taking, provide bottled water.
So at this point, just, so that we're having transparency, because I'm not sure many people watch our meetings, can we put up on the town website, PFAS was detected at Flint Road, and this is our action plan, testing these, or testing wells within the radius? I mean, just so that we're submitting it, it's gonna get out, I mean, just let's be ahead of it.
I like it.
I think expedient testing of the private homes is the most important thing here. To let them know that it can be tested as soon as possible and allow Gary to get in and test, that's the most important thing. And they've already received letters, we can put the information up, it's gonna be, we have detected in our landfill at these levels. If you're within 500 feet, you'll be notified that there will be testing by CMG, and that if it is detected in your well, you'll either provided bottled water immediately for the critical exposure pathways to eliminate that. And hopefully they are drinking bottled water because they're next to the landfill, and that letter may have triggered and made, if they have children, they may have already started, which I think some people have. I know some of them that, like Gary had spoken to one family, and they're drinking bottled water also that we provide anyway, for other reasons. So they're already drinking bottled water because of other contaminants.
Right.
So, but I think that a consistent message of expedience of testing of their wells is important, and taking it seriously that if anything is found, they'll be notified immediately, and the town would take proper action.
And I was, for that, yes, expedient, I wholly agree, but for general town Charlton residents, so they
Mhm.
don't panic if they hear PFAS was present, just so they know
Exactly.
that, you know, this is the guidance, we would test these wells, and this is so they know the plan.
Sure.
Because then I think we would be getting a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking just maybe a news flash or something like that, just as information regarding PFAS testing at a
I'm just-
landfill or.
I think not a lot of people visit our website either, like I said, and watch this. I think what is the best mode of getting the information out there? Would it be a letter to them that are close to the home, or we're talking about the whole town informing, or?
I'm just saying because if it gets picked up somewhere, you know, we report it to DEP and then it comes out Charlton has PFAS, you know, just so everybody's not in panic mode, that they know there's an action plan, we're mitigating, you know.
Anyone that calls this office will be
Yeah.
assured that we've taken the proper action and done the correct thing.
No, I
understand.
understand. It's just at least having the transparency. We acknowledge the fact that we've identified PFAS at a location that's controlled by the town of Charlton and are taking proactive steps against it.
Exactly.
We're aware of
A simple message.
what
right?
we're able to be aware of at this time. We're not hiding anything. essentially.
So, one thing I can add to that is once we'll call DEP tomorrow. Once we call, we'll have a tracking number.
Yeah.
So if you did want to post something
The RTN number,
on the
yeah.
website or the town's website, or whatever, you could, and I wouldn't get into all the details on concentrations or any of that, because I think it's just
No,
too
it's just-
detailed, but
Yeah.
as you said, full disclosure, I think that's a great idea. If you can hold off until I get that tracking number,
Yeah.
sometime tomorrow, they should issue it to me right when I call. Because I think it'd be relevant to have that there, because people do know that they can go to that website and find things. There won't be anything there.
Yeah,
There's
we'll
a
do it
new
within
number.
like 48 hours of actually sending the letter out, so that way, essentially, the people impacted may find out about the same time
Right.
it goes out. Not like, oh, I wonder if I'm impacted, and then go, oh, I guess I was.
So what'll happen is when I call and I tell DEP this and we reference these addresses, they're gonna tell us to get going. We'll make phone calls, certainly within 48 hours, probably Wednesday or Thursday, we'll be making these calls to get access. And we can sample Thursday, Friday, Monday, we'll sample ASAP for them, as soon as they're available.
And my thought was more after you do the sampling, that 30-day window that you have, because they're gonna be talking to people and so, I mean, just that, I think that's where we're gonna need to have that out there, so.
I called the Board of Health, and here's what my
Right.
here, social media land. Here's what I interpreted from the phone conversation that I had. And it's like,
And
you gotta try to avoid
What
that.
we'll do is, myself or one of my other guys, we're very consistent when we sample. We're sampling on behalf of the town, we're testing for this parameter. It takes about 30 days to get the results, and we'll notify you of those results. That's pretty much what we say.
That's true. What lab are you using? Same one?
Alpha. Alpha Analytical is, we've had the best luck with quality and turnaround time right now. We could look to, there's only a few labs that are certified.
That's what I was asking, yeah.
There's another lab that I've used that I've had really good luck with. They're actually, their PFAS lab is in Florida, but they have a distribution center in Northborough. And we drop everything in Northborough, they FedEx it down, and we've actually had really, really good luck with them. Sometimes their pricing is a little better than Alpha, sometimes their turnaround's a little better. But right now, on these, what I'll call small hit projects, it's better to stay right here with Alpha. But if we get to the point where we're gonna be doing an awful lot of this, we might wanna probably get a quote, maybe you can get some better pricing, possibly better turnaround. But Alpha is the place to go right now that I would highly recommend. I've had no issues with them from a quality perspective. Their price is fair. Their turnaround is not great, but because they stick with it, but they're all busy.
My 2 cents on any news flash, anything on the website, whatever, in the language, my 2 cents would say, as precaution, we suggest bottled water. That's all, my 2 cents. Okay, so Gary, you were good. Andrew, do you have anything? You good?
Good.
Okay, so that's gonna be the end of the Flint Road landfill discussion for this round, unless anybody else has anything to add to it. And if not, then I'd like to move on to the department head resorts, and as always, Gary, thank you for coming in and educating us on what's going on. And Andrew, thanks for coming in and showing your support. And hearing firsthand as it unfolds.
That's all right. It's always good to be with you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. Jim, take it away.
All right, good evening, and I know you weren't here at the last meeting, Matt. Emily Quinn came in today, the new hire, and she just asked questions and stuff, but she's excited to get moving forward. The good thing is they decided that they did a population error for Spencer, and that they're going to give us another 130, almost 36,000 to hire another employee. So, so we'll decide as the coalition that the 5 towns of what we're going to need, and I know moving forward, but that she hasn't even started yet. She doesn't start till the 15th, but certainly she's ready to go, and she's anxious to get started. As you know, you saw our van, and Andrew was nice enough to have the plug station out back next to the building, so we stole Kurt's parking spot that he's had for many years. Sorry, Kurt, but that's the best way to get the van in there. And tomorrow is a health fair also. I think that we'll be across the street. It's for the employees. As you can see, we'll be handing out these bags and stuff to people, but it's generally a health fair for the Charlton employees that we're taking part in. So we'll be across the street. This office will still be open. I think we'll prioritize if anything comes back from Gary and get that message out there, get it online. So, but we will be across the street, just to let you know that either Andrew or Kim will be in here, and I'll be across the street or whatever. And it is an important thing. The town wants us to make sure the employees all attend. So it's just for the employees, but it's about the benefits. It's about all that stuff. As you can see, the bags that we have, we're trying to participate and move forward on that. So. Also, we've been doing, handling a lot of complaints, a lot of inspections. I was out today and let everyone know that ticks are prevalent right now. It's certainly, with the rain especially, we're having a lot of problems with water. But they did put a beaver deceiver on Burlingame Road at the request of conservation, rather than, because the culverts keep getting blocked. And as you can see, if you drive down Burlingame, that water is this high and the road is this low. So we're having an issue there, but they're doing, the DPW hired Beaver Solutions, a specialist. They did a good job. I stopped and watched them. I did take an updated class on the beaver trapping and issues of permits that we all took to make sure we're up to date with any changes in that. So we did that, and as I was driving by, he was there. So. But if you stop, you can see it. It's just a gated, and then they need something for the turtles to actually get out. And then each day they have to go and let the turtles out so they can pass through.
Interesting.
So they're taking the, normally we're just moving forward on that, trying to get, as you can see, we have a lot of stuff in the office for the new employees. That is driving me crazy because a little clustered, especially Andrea. And she worked hard at getting all the bags together. The van is full. So we will be working on that. Hopefully it's a good day tomorrow and not raining, but we'll be at the library, and hopefully that'll move forward. But Matt, I'd like you to meet Emily also, and she'd like to meet you also. I missed her today, I was out, but if you want our next meeting, I think she should come in and meet. She did meet the board when you weren't here, but I think you should also meet her, so she would like to meet you too.
Sure.
So have her come in and you can. But she'll be here.
Well,
So,
Jim, there's an election Saturday, so anything could happen. I may or may not be here.
you're running unopposed.
Well, then there's a good chance I'll be here, but I'm just saying.
Just make sure you vote for yourself.
No, that's fine, yeah, that's.
No, and it just, I think as the chair, you should know who is out there representing you, not only me, but I wouldn't send anyone out that is gonna do anything that would not be a misrepresentation of this board. They're gonna conduct themselves in the proper manner, but you should know who's working for you.
Yeah, I
So-
agree.
So that, and like I said, the grant, to my surprise, is they want to start, because of Spencer, they did a population error on them, and they feel that they need extra help, so they decided to send us a letter and said, oh, guess what, we have more money for you, so.
This will be a coalition employee reporting through this office?
Working through the Charlton Coalition for Public Health,
Right.
but working for 5
Yes,
municipalities.
but it'll
So,
be under.
under the
your
control of the
jurisdiction.
town of Charlton, it's a town of Charlton employee, essentially, and a
Right.
Board of Health employee that represents the Charlton Board of Health.
So the funding that you said, 130,000 was it?
136, almost 137 additional.
Is that per year or for the
Per
5
year.
years? Per year.
So we're almost up to almost 500,000.
$134,457.57.
We're up to 490
$434,478.
per year for the next 6 years.
For 2,
Be 3.
for 3.
That includes paying for the benefits, no cost, and the town of Charlton gets $45,000 that are unencumbered that goes into wherever.
General fund.
General funds,
Actually,
yeah.
it's 65,171 this time, it goes up.
It's going up,
Yeah, it's 15%, so you get 65,000.
so it'll be 65,000, excuse me, so it's even better in that. And Charlton doesn't encumber any of the costs for insurance, benefits is all paid for. So it's, and the regionalization is the new thing, and they'll be working for 5 towns. It's very tough to coordinate to make sure they're doing the proper thing, but we also have a shared services coordinator, Ethan Milab, that is required through the grant to have before you can even apply. And he works with Stream RPC, and we have weekly meetings with the group to make sure everyone's happy, and I told everyone he had to step up and make sure that, but we're not gonna send anyone out, and I wouldn't do that unless they're properly trained and know what they're doing, and I make sure that they're gonna represent each town is responsible for oversight when they're with them, because if Emily comes to Sturbridge on Thursdays, it's gonna be Ken Lacey that's gonna be responsible as the health director there. And of course, the board, she's gonna have to get approval from the boards of each town to make sure that, you can't go out and do inspections without the authority of each board giving you that authority, so it's a process, it's a long process, but I think it does help when people are out, people are sick. Charlton, to be honest, we're pretty good, but we always, you say you're good, but one day someone's sick, someone's out, something happens. And with regionalization, it's, you can work as a group, you can attack things and make sure that you go out. It's kind of, going out there is kind of dangerous. You're doing housing or doing inspections. It's always nice to go with a couple people too. So working together and tackling problems is always a good thing too. So.
Great, what else?
I'm sure I forgot a million things. Andrew's taking 3 weeks vacation in June. She's going to Poland, so. No, the office is working great. I think Emily, who came in today, I was glad I wasn't there because she sort of got to ask the girls how the office worked, and they had a nice conversation. So I think she'll be a good fit, and I think that she's come in well trained and ready to go. So she said she was excited about it. And
Great.
I think that's, but I will have her attend a meeting when you're ready, Matt.
Yeah, we can set it up for the
to,
next meeting, that's
you know,
fine.
And I
That'd be
think
great.
it's important to know who's, someone may complain or do something, I would let you know anyway, but you should know the person that you're really is representing, because we serve at the will of the board, and I think having someone you had never even met, I mean, not that I would send her out to do, she would be with me anyway if I did or anything, or with Kim,
Yeah.
but I certainly think that it's important that the board know who you have here.
Great.
And like I said, tomorrow I know there's important things happening at the landfill and information that needs to get out. We'll make sure that happens, but we will participate in the health fair. The board is going to be a big part of it, so the town's important to the town, so we'll be first thing in the morning taking the van across to the library and setting up and passing out these bags.
Nice.
That's about all I have.
All right. Other business unknown at the time of posting. I actually got a call today from Mr. Habler, and he is on the government council. I know I'm not saying it properly, but basically there was a committee that he represents, and he had a report on how our office works with other offices within the building and within the town of Charlton. He has extended an invitation on May 16th at 6:30 p.m. It will be in the Selectmen's Room for members of this board one or two, or if we all wanted to go, it's open door, but just to see how the town is able to work within itself, within the other departments within the town.
Yeah.
And so, for me, no news is good news. I don't hear of a whole lot of problems going on. I have heard of some in the past, and those have kind of gone away. I do know of a little problem, but generally speaking, I think the departments are working well together. What's your take on that?
I'm always for, I've talked to Andrew about this, but having a task force. I think when you approach a problem like is a big issue with a property or something that's going on, it's nice to have the input of all the departments to go together and force. And it's one visit. And we do have some issues in Charlton now that we're dealing with that the police chief has brought to my attention that we have served notice to. So we would go with fire, we would go with police, we would go with building, we would go together. It's called a housing task force because ultimately the housing, people don't realize, but housing falls under the Board of Health for the minimum standards of fitness for human habitation. And if you're not maintaining your property or doing things, we have some issues right now that are going on that we're going to serve notice. I won't mention because we haven't served the notices properly yet, so I won't mention any names. But we will go there as a team, and I think any municipality should work together as a team, to say. Because if you never worked with anyone else in the department, we work all together for the residents of Charlton, and I work at the will of the board. I think having everyone work together is great, and I think even being in this building, we really don't talk to planning that much because we don't see them on the other side. We don't talk to conservation that much because they do their own thing and they're gone. So I think even tomorrow you get to see people and do stuff, but I think if this person's idea is how government works together, the Board of Health has always reached out to work with anyone. We're always willing to step forward and work with any department if they need assistance. I never turn anyone down the chief comes in and checks, police chief. I work with the fire chief because they're working on sheltering now through the region to identify new sheltering. It's a big thing with the state now that has come down that you need to identify proper sheltering and stuff. They've changed the housing code. The governor held back on it, so the changes are now going to be out in the middle of next month rather than they were implemented. They are allowing for some temporary housing and being more lenient, but I will update the board at the next meeting on those changes once they're approved.
Okay. So really, things are good.
It works smoothly. This office always works smoothly. If we have an issue, I'm always making sure I reach out to the board to let the chair know, especially you, Matt, being chair now, that if something happens, I want you to know ahead of time instead of at the end just saying, hey, explain this to me. Why don't you, I try and keep you informed. I think, like I said, we serve at the will of the board, and if I don't keep the board informed, and you don't know what's going on, then I'm not doing my job. So.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like our boards with the other boards, the assessors and the building and there's no block anywhere. Everything's pretty good, right?
No, I don't see any. Personally, myself, being here all the time, I don't see that we're not working well with any other board.
Andrew, how about you? You must deal with other boards. Everything okay?
Honestly, I don't really talk to any other boards. We talk to the other people that work in the town hall, but I don't think we would actually have any contact with other boards for any reason that I can think of.
Okay.
Is this part of the, there was a presentation at the all boards meeting where they were embarking on this multi-year project where they were just evaluating how everybody works together.
Yeah, so I had a call from Mr. Joe Habler, and I forget the committee he's on, but it was a government,
Study.
Government study, right?
Study committee, I think, yeah.
That
He
is that.
came here.
Hmm?
He came here, he said he knew you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Mr. Habler go way back. Way back. Early 80s. Maybe longer. Anyways, there's a meeting, and we're invited if we'd like to go. It's not mandatory by any means. There's no, it's just gonna be an informal discussion and, just asking, things are good, things are bad, if things are better than they may have been in the past and whatnot. And, like I say, no news is good news. I'm not really stuck on any other boards that we're having issues with, so I think we're all pretty good. I know, I think the Board of Health and the Fire Department has come a long way in the past 4 or 5, 6 years in communication and needs and what they have and what we have and what we can provide and what they can provide and all of that. I think there's just been a lot more communication through the boards, so I know that's been a huge improvement, so.
Absolutely. I think that we work closely with I spoke to the fire inspector today. I did an inspection with Kurt and the fire inspector in regards to a restaurant trying to reopen. So we do, as far as boards, I don't see that many boards, to be honestly, like Andrea said. I see this board all the time, but I don't per se go to the zoning board or the planning board. Planning board, every once in a while I would attend a meeting, but I don't per se know even who's on the zoning board, to be honest.
So, just curious, but the restaurant that you're talking, any word on Dresser Hill? Are they getting ready to be opening up?
I just did an inspection there. I met with the new owner, and the place is beautiful.
Nice.
He went above and beyond, and when he opened up a can of worms, he said he was not going to open under those conditions. So what he did was did everything perfect, and he's trying to open at the end of May with the board's approval, of course. But he's waiting for Kurt to sign off on, and he had to deal with the DEP because he's a public water supplier, which he's not used to being in Worcester, where you just turn the water on and get connected. Right. So I had to walk him through that process, and it's quite lengthy, the paperwork. So he was a little overwhelmed by that. He's not used to that. But he knows that people have been asking, and I think people will be very happy to see this place now. The Flying Rhino from Worcester, that's on Shrewsbury Street, will be handling the food aspect of it, and he'll be doing the ice cream aspect.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be very good when he opens.
I'm just curious, and I forget, because I've probably been told the answer more than once, but as far as public water supply,
Mhm.
if it's 100% bottled water, does that still come into play?
What do you mean by 100% bottled water?
Well, like, if you're opening a restaurant and you're not using anything with tap water, except for maybe washing dishes or something,
You'd have to be PWS.
you're still
Yeah.
public water supply.
Yeah, because the dishes come in contact with water that may need filtration. You can still get sick, say you drink out of a stream and the water's not treated. If you just wash those dishes, you can still catch, giardia or some kind of disease and illness. So
Okay.
they would still have to. And there's some cases where small churches only give out coffee and they only use bottled water. We try and leave the DEP doesn't want to really deal with
Right.
paperwork for that, and they could strictly use bottled water if they're just offering a cup of coffee. And we've done that. Like St. Joe's does that, but they certainly have a full-service kitchen, so they are a PWS. It does cost money. It's another added cost, but it's certainly something that has to be done.
All right, so that was my other business unknown at the time, posting +1. New business, oh, my phone was shut right off. Under new business was reorganization of board members. So, Pete, how you feeling? You gonna be with us?
There's a horse and there's a cart. We're not putting the cart in front of the horse, so.
So, since election is Saturday, I think it would make sense to let's table reorganization of board members till after the election. If you're still with us, then we'll reorganize, and if you're not still with us, then this board can have a discussion as to what the next step should be. So I would like, I'd like to make I don't know if I should make a motion, but I'd like maybe someone to make a motion that we table reorganization of the board members till the next meeting.
I'll make a motion, we table reorganization of board members till after town election on Saturday, May 7th. Did I get that date right? 6th, sorry.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So, next line item, looks like it will be determine the next meeting. So, what are you thinking, John?
Well, I was looking at the calendar here earlier, and Gary was saying we might expect PFAS test results right around Labor Day. I'm sorry, I'm pushing it. Labor Day, oh my goodness. Memorial Day, which is the 29th, okay. So, I don't know, we could meet possibly on the 30th, which is,
I'm good with that.
Or June sixth is the next one.
one of the two. Don't want to lose time if he does have the results by then.
He won't.
You don't think he will?
He may.
He may, if you push,
May.
but if they're sending off to Florida, which is weird, that's why. There's not
Um,
many
No, he's
labs.
gonna do Alpha
Yeah,
this
do
time.
Alpha,
Yeah, I think he's
Do it
gonna
Alpha.
stick with Alpha.
So why don't we do that? Let's schedule the meeting for May 30th. Pete, you good with that?
Yeah.
And we'll pencil it in, and perhaps if information comes in sooner, we may try to change that, and maybe even come a week earlier on the 23rd.
Yeah, I'm available for that if
And-
that's needed, sure.
And if it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on, then maybe we'll bump it to the 6th or something. But
Yeah.
because I think the meeting, regardless, should come as soon as those results come in.
Agreed.
So let's.
We just need 48 hours to post it, otherwise it's not
Right.
legal, so.
Right. So let's schedule it for the 30th, knowing that may be a soft date.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
So, Pete, any other discussion?
I have none.
John?
Nope, good.
So I'd like to say that you may or may not be with us, Pete, after the election, moving on to a different position. And if you get it, all the best with that. And it's been a pleasure serving with you on this board.
Likewise, yeah.
Thank you.
It's been good. And if you're still with us in 2 weeks, then so be it.
You got
We'll
us
see
for
you-
another year.
We'll see you next year, so, yeah. Okay, so, is there someone wanna make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting of May 2nd, 2023.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
7:03.